Well, as most of you know, if you follow me on Twitter, voting was done today in South Carolina. Went out and did my part for sure. Went out and voted for Tulsi Gabbard. Votes are starting to come in, and I will be covering that again later tonight as we start to see the final count on the votes. However, as things stand as of right now, we are 33% reporting here in South Carolina, and that dreadful prediction seems to be coming true. Joe Biden is off to the races with quite the lead. Very reminiscent as to how Bernie's victory looked almost in Nevada. 33%, 35% now officially reporting, and Joe Biden has 50.8% of the vote with 92,226 votes actually counted. Bernie at a distant 18.7% with 34,015 votes counted at this time. Now, of course, you know who I went out and voted for. I've been very, vocal about who I supported. Tulsi Gabbard, 1.1%, 35% reporting. She's got 2,187 votes. Now, is this surprising to me? No. The media has done one hell of a job at silencing out Tulsi Gabbard's voice and keeping her as an unknown. Again, even in recent weeks, I was still encountering people who just really had no idea who Tulsi Gabbard was. Okay, so this is no real surprise to me whatsoever. She hasn't been in the last few debates. Most people think she's dropped out or just gave up on her. But I went out and I made sure that I voted. And, people are going to, as I said before, probably say, well, why didn't you vote for Bernie? Well, I'm going to vote for who I think is the best, regardless of where she stands in polling, regardless of where she stands on actually winning. My opinion, that was Tulsi Gabbard, so I voted Tulsi Gabbard. But that's not the topic that I want to talk about for this video. I'll be coming back to primary coverage later as we start to get close to seeing actual results come in. Right now, I want to talk about the big breaking news that came out earlier today. Apparently, we have now signed a peace deal with the Taliban to end the war in Afghanistan. That being said, let's hear straight from President Trump his words about this new peace deal and what remarks does he have for this 19-year war. Let's hear what he has to say.
I guess most of all, I want to thank all of the people in the United States for having spent so much in terms of blood, in terms of treasure and treasury, the money that has been spent, the lives that have been lost. And we just signed an agreement that puts us in a position to get it done, bring us down to in the vicinity of 8,000 troops. The United Nations was informed of everything, and NATO has been great. Secretary Stoltenberg has been fantastic. And I want to thank the United Nations for the help they gave, and I also want to thank and congratulate Secretary Stoltenberg of NATO. 29 countries involved, and all approving, all very happy with what's going on. I want to also thank and congratulate Secretary of State Pompeo and Secretary of Defense Mark Esper. And I'll be meeting personally with Taliban leaders in the not too distant future. And we'll be very much hoping that they will be doing what they say they're going to be doing. They will be killing terrorists. They will be killing some very bad people. They will keep that fight going. We've had tremendous success in Afghanistan in the killing of terrorists, but it's time, after all these years, to go and to bring our people back home. We want to bring our people back home.
So, if we're really pulling out at this point, that's great. But there's a few problems here. First of all, what we are seeing is that we have negotiated a peace deal out to leave and let a group keep power in a country when our entire purpose of supposedly going there in the first place was to remove said group from power. Now, should we have done it? No. Should have kept our noses out of it. But the overall point here is this. We went there in the first place to take the Taliban out. 19 years later, however much money later, and how many lives lost later, we now decide we're going to leave and negotiate a peace deal with the very people we went there to basically take out in the first place. Now, again, am I saying we should have stayed on to finish our goal? No, not by any means. But this is certainly not any sort of a victory. None. It's not a victory. Okay? There's nothing but a loss here. We went, started a conflict, and did not achieve the goal that we set out to achieve by starting that conflict. And now, after all that money, all that time, and all those lives lost, we have achieved nothing. Now, the people that disagree with me are going to say, oh, but the Taliban's come to the table and they've done this and that. And they're saying what did you hear President Trump say right there? They're going to kill terrorists, blah, blah, blah. Well, wait a minute. I thought that our mainstream media has been telling us for a long time that they are terrorists. So let me get this straight. They're terrorists, but we're going to depend upon them to go kill other terrorists. Amazing how all of a sudden this entire narrative flipped. They've been terrorists for years, but now they're all right folks that we've negotiated with. And don't worry, with our departure, they're going to pick up our mantle right where we're leaving off, and they are going to take care of those dirty old rotten terrorists for us. Amazing how a narrative can just flip that quick, huh? Kinda like how at one point we were working alongside of Qasem Soleimani in the Quds Force at one point to fight terrorists known as ISIS. And I'm not saying that because I'm not saying ISIS isn't terrorist. It's just since we're using this whole terrorist term, that's why I do that here. But, you know, we were allying with Soleimani to fight ISIS. And then all of a sudden we kill the guy because why? Well, he's a terrorist. So terrorist is just a term, whether it's true or not, our government's going to throw it around to fit their agenda depending on what they want to do. And you could have been a terrorist in the past and clearly become someone we can negotiate with today. Likewise, you could have been someone we could have negotiated with a few years back, and now you're a terrorist because why? Well, we want to dispose of you, and so we're going to slap that label on you, whether it's true or not. Hey, we need to throw it on there to justify, for our ends to justify the means here, so there you go. This is not a victory, by any means. It's great we're pulling out, but this is not a victory. I mean, plain and simple, it's just not. This is nothing but an absolute stalemate that it took us almost 2 decades, however much money, and who knows how many lives lost just on our side alone. We're not even going to count potential civilian casualties on the other side. Let's not even get into that because I'm sure that's going to make the number even that much more grotesque at the end of the day. Okay? So while a lot of people are cheering this on, you can cheer in the sense we're not at war, but this is really nothing to cheer about, that it took us 2 decades to figure out we made a big mistake. And to be fair, is it any surprise that we're doing it at this point? Look what just leaked out earlier. And I find that interesting because we just heard him say in that clip that, oh, we've done a phenomenal job of killing terrorists in Afghanistan. When what did the Afghanistan papers show us not too long ago? That's pretty much, to use an old Southern cliche, a bunch of hogwash. Turns out we've been pumping propaganda to our people talking about just how great we've been doing in Afghanistan when it's been actually the opposite. They've been pushing a double narrative. With either scenario, we're doing great. If there is no uprising, hey, look, we're doing great. There's no uprising. And then when uprising starts, hey, look, we're doing great. We're putting so much pressure on them. They're going to this last result and they're trying to fight back. And that's how you know they're on their last leg. So we're winning. Well, wait a minute. So when they're not uprising, that's how you know we're winning. But when they start to fight back and uprise, well, we've pushed them into a corner. So, you know, we're still winning. No, you can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Something else we say down here in the South. Some people say candy instead, but whatever. Okay? You can't have it both ways, man. Either you're winning on one and losing on the other, or flip them around, but you can't be winning both. That's just a narrative that was pushed by the mainstream media for their ends to justify the means. Okay? There's so much stuff that's come out about this war in Afghanistan. It's going on for far too long. It's become very much like a modern day Vietnam. So, of course, we're pulling out of it. Am I surprised? No. I'm not surprised at all. But has this solved the problem? No. As if Afghanistan was the only country we were involved in the Middle East. Hardly. We were involved and are involved in many others. Okay? You've got the whole issue with Syria. You've got the tensions that are building with Iran. Look what's still going on in Iraq. No, we are not done in the Middle East. And we are still poking our nose in where it doesn't belong in the Middle East. And until we are completely out, well, guess what? There's really no point for us to be cheerleading like we've had some mass departure from the Middle East. Just hasn't happened. Just hasn't happened. Okay? But that being said, let's be clear. If anyone thinks for 1 second that President Trump and all of the Trump base and all the Trump supporters are not going to use this as a talking point to show that President Trump has fulfilled a campaign promise by doing this and getting us out of Afghanistan, ha ha, think again. Of course he's going to do this. Now, again, going back to what I said earlier in the video, looks like Joe Biden's pulling ahead. I've given my suspicions. I've got a feeling that they're going to rig this whole primary. We'll see what happens. I hope it don't happen, but I'm certainly not going to hold my breath on the matter. But you know full well that if it is someone like Joe Biden that goes up against Donald Trump is going to use this very thing to bludgeon Joe Biden with. Now, true, while Joe Biden may have been opposed to Afghanistan, we all know just how Joe Biden was when it came to the war in Iraq. Okay? We also know that under the Obama administration, the Obama administration, President Obama and Mr. Vice President Joe Biden, they were going to be the, presidency and the administration that got out of those mistakes. And we got out of Iraq, even though it made a mess. Wasn't exactly done probably the best way. But we did do that. However, in the meantime, we went from 2 conflicts to 7 conflicts. Wow. That sure was a step in the right direction, huh? So if you think for one moment that Donald Trump would not use this very issue to his advantage to attack someone like Joe Biden, of course he is. And you know what? It's probably going to actually end up sticking too. That is going to get over pretty good, I would say, in a general election. This is, again, further points what I've made in the past, furthering my point and many other people's point that when you put someone like a Joe Biden, a Pete Buttigieg, or any of these other people up against Donald Trump, he has played his cards just right. He is going to whip their ass all over a debate stage, and you will see Trump 2 terms in office. I'm calling it right now. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm not going to be convinced that I'm wrong till I see it go the polar opposite way, okay, when a general election comes around, if one of those clowns end up running against Donald Trump. Pure and simple. We'll see what happens, but yeah, great that we're out of Afghanistan, but don't lose sight of the fact that it's taken us nearly 2 decades, a lot of money, and a lot of lives to figure out we need to get out of a place we've got no business being in the first place. And I would not exactly consider that very much of a victory or something we should be walking around and just cheering at like it's some great accomplishment. Not really, especially when our end result was negotiating with the people we've been calling terrorists for these entire 2 decades.